Hey SJ, how's it going?
Greg, it's going great. How are you?
I'm doing all right.
Excellent. I love
Excited
the
for
background. That's so
I
cool.
was scrambling to find a ship station background and this is all I could dig up.
It just feels like wrapping paper, which is kind
Right?
of, yeah. Coolio. Anything I can go over for you today? Your camera looks
So,
great. You sound great from the tech side.
what was that?
Your camera and your voice sounds great from the tech side.
Oh, good. Awesome. Yeah, I guess not too much for me. I've got, all my talking points mapped out here. I wanted to make sure that, I'm able to kind of jump in when you need me to or comment on specific points that some of the other speakers made. So, not sure if you wanted to take a few minutes here to, you know, uh, essentially on the first two, so Justuno's and Amanda's, um, because I come so far after the cart that it's hard for me to really deliver some valuable insights into things that come before. I do have some things to that I could mention, but I'm not sure how much I'd be able to dive in or comment on some of the stats.
Okay, noted for
Just to
sure
bring
on
that up.
those. Yeah, I'll note that. If anything, when I was just running through this, I did have some just like natural things that came to mind. So I'll try to prompt you as much as I can, like with my question and where I
Sure.
think shipping fits in. But then that's totally a good spot for you to say, like, being transparent, we're really focused on the post and still give a little spiel about yourself and like
Sure.
maybe how to word things in shipping,
Yep.
whatever you think will help. Yeah.
Got it.
I appreciate that. That's a good note. Hi, Amanda.
Hey,
How are
how's
you?
it going?
Going
Good.
great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
actually on that, oh, go ahead.
no, no, you go ahead.
I was just gonna say on that point, are all of us commenting on everybody's points, or do we just chime in when we have something?
Ideally, we will all comment on each other's points in some capacity. Like Greg just mentioned, though, depending on just like how you present your info and maybe things I say, like I can try to sneak that conversation to get into shipping so it's a little more relevant. But I will take the cues. If there's silence, I will try to like wrap it up myself instead of
Okay,
passing it off to end. Yeah. So kind
gotcha.
of like I was letting Greg know, if you feel like I'm trying to ask a question that's really not related or you really don't feel comfortable answering in any type of way, then you can totally say that. Like, I think we fall more into this and kind of pivot back to
Okay,
you.
cool.
Very casual. Yeah, of course. And feel free to talk like with each other too. Like, Greg, this made me think of you, or like kind of vice versa. You can always bring it back to each other.
Sure.
Mm,
Sweet.
sweet, sweet. Yeah, I'm excited for this format that we're doing the webinar in today. It's the first time that kind of doing just this very minimal slide deck situation. So we've done many types of these panels, just presenting it differently, I think is gonna give me some good info this round.
Would I
Yeah,
be able to share my screen at one point?
yeah, absolutely. Yep. I'm going to,
Cool. I just want to show that list of stories that were top rated, like as, so I can get a little more specific than what's on there.
okay, for sure. I'll say when I'm going through everything, I'm just gonna be on your screen while it's going. So you can just give me that cue of Steph, I'd love to share something, and you can go for it.
Cool. Awesome.
Ideally, we're all sticking to around 10 to 15 minutes in our presentation. I'll keep an eye on the time for everyone as we're going. And we have just time for QA. So if the conversation feels good, if it seems like we're all really able to speak on one data point or however it goes, then I'll stay around there. So we do have some buffer time. But we got some great questions that came in the RSVPs that I really liked because it tells like they're really trying to get our expertise from everyone. It's on the slide 7 in my speaker notes if you'd like to take a look. But I have in bold the ones that I will try to fit in if we get into some QA time. And Greg, if anything, there's a couple or three about shipping. that will
Sure.
maybe be more like general expertise. So how do you think shipping will be handled? We may just ask for someone to give like their example. Um, let's see if we could share insights on social influencer campaigns, email campaigns for the holidays. So just however we see that in our day to day. A couple questions around just getting some help getting off the ground. So kind of sounds like a toolkit, the basics, what they could probably realistically do. How do we track tactics? How do these tactics work for subscription only based companies? So that just can take our brain outside of just the typical maybe D2C that we're working with. Do you collect zero party data in store? So there is that element that we can always tie back to in store situations. How to stand out as a startup in a competitive market. So I think we can all kind of speak to just being very unique, creating great experiences. And then how can brands support earlier shopping this year without risking loss of awareness later on? So keeping that brand vibe the whole way through is kind of what I get from that. Andy, I can't hear you. I'm not sure if you said something just now.
Oh, sorry. No, just quiet so far. Let me do your thing. How's it going?
Like the quietest one. Cool. Do you have any questions? Anything we can run through for you?
No, I think it seems pretty straightforward. So like we're probably supposed to just only take like a couple minutes to introduce the stats on our slide, is that right? And then mostly do discussion or like what should I be like? You said 10 to 15 minutes, but that's like encapsulating both presenting the numbers and talking through them, yeah?
Yeah, exactly. So however long it takes you to get through your point of view, that's probably the most important. And
Cool.
then at least sometime where one of us could pipe in, I'll be the one kind of directing each of us and like, oh, Greg, like, what do you think? But
Sweet.
feel free to hop in, whoever. And then you can
Perfect.
also use chat if you want to comment into chat. Anyone has questions for someone? That's a good place to.
Sounds good.
So yeah, I'll definitely be vocal if like stay on this topic, but we got to hop to the next topic.
Cool.
Everyone sounds great. And I'll be sharing the slides, Andy, but let me know if for any reason you want to share anything.
Okay.
As far as the chat, I think we all have representatives that will be in chat, hopefully sparking something for us and initiating anything if it's kind of dead. So with those, you feel free to answer in the chat and always try to bring up like really relevant ones for us to chat about. So yeah, we'll wrap it up with QA. There are no offers today, but feel free to just pitch whatever it is related to, I know ShipStation, for example, Greg, your new feature, if that's something that you want to highlight or you want to like just put a landing page anywhere. Like
Sure. Yeah, I think we do have an offer. Anthony should have shared it, but it's a 2-month free.
Okay. Oh, okay. I didn't get an offer. I didn't do an offer screen or yeah, an offer slide. So feel free to throw that one in chat.
Okay.
And then you can plug whenever. As far as like when we're getting into the transitions, we've got our whole intro slide. I have everyone's images there. So it's going to be kind of meet the speakers and you'll give your intro on yourself, on your company, and then we'll get into Amanda. And then Amanda, as you get into yours, you can take the time to kind of expand on Stacker Studio. I think we're maybe a more educational phase with you too, and just like maybe what you'll say. So feel free to make that super basic for everyone. And then, yeah, we'll get into that panel vibe. We've got 5 minutes. We are on track. Yeah, and feel free to be off camera if you'd like while someone else is presenting. Ideally, just when it's kind of all of us going back and forth, we see each other. I'm just going to be sharing a couple of our blog articles that run through our original data. So I'll just be throwing that in chat here and there.
Sounds a good plan.
Did you guys have a good weekend?
too short, but not bad.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel that, and we have a 3-day weekend every week. What I feel.
Nice.
I am very jealous of the 4-day work week life. That is what I aspire to to get through some point.
It's pretty awesome. I will say there are definitely Fridays that I'm hopping on and it's like kind of a full day's work, but yeah, just tons of like flexibility and just changes your mindset, I think, knowing that you have, it's kind of like up to you, you know, what you do with your
Mhm.
time and what you can accomplish. Mm.
And just so you know, SJ, I do have to have like a hard stop at the 3:15 mark.
Okay.
I got to run to the airport.
Oh gosh, yeah. We'll be done right at 3. So if you got to hop, that's
Oh,
cool. Go and chat. Yeah. That's just a
awesome.
little buffer if we go over, but for sure, feel free to hop out.
Okay. Thank you.
Absolutely. Where are you headed to?
I'm headed home, back to Houston. So for the last 2 weeks, I've been in Connecticut, which is where I'm from originally. I've only been in Texas for about 3 years and, visited the parents, the in-laws, and, family and friends. So
Oh, that's
today's the last day.
yeah. Dang, you're all the way up in Connecticut. Huh.
Yes.
Yeah. Is there any of that like forest fire smog situation still, or is that
Apparent right now, no. No, it was really bad at one point when all those fires were going on in Canada. And I mean, it was just like smog everywhere. Just it looked like fog. Apparently there was a lot of, you could smell it and all that as well. But now it's clear.
oh, good for you.
Life is back to normal.
Yeah, trucking along over there.
Yep.
That's the wildest thing. I saw like the radar or whatever it is that shows all of the fires that are happening. And
Mhm.
it was just like a whole line, a whole block of fire and smoke.
It was nuts. We've got family in North Carolina and they got the smoke all the way down there.
Just on the move.
Yep.
That reminds me of, I'm sure maybe in Houston too, but when they say that we get like the sand in the wind from like another continent, that it flies all the way over and then that's when it gets all smoggy. But that happens
Mhm.
in Austin sometimes.
Did you say you were in Houston too?
I'm in Austin, so that's why I'm
You're
like
in Austin. Okay.
kind of around the same place. Are you like in Houston or going to explore anywhere?
No, so I'm actually in Katy, like right outside of
Cool.
of Houston. So about 2 hours and 15 minutes from Austin.
Oh, heck yeah.
West Houston, as far west as you can get, basically.
Still Houston.
Yeah.
I've learned that, yeah, it's still called Houston, everything that's
Mhm.
love it. Julio, guys, we've got about 10 seconds, then I'm going to go live. And yeah, just really looking forward to discussing everything. I hope we can be super casual and feel free to jump in whenever. Cool. We'll start when
Sounds
we
good.
Sounds great.
start. Cool. We've got people joining in right now, ready for our webinar today. You are in the right place if you're here for Reading Between the Data 2023 Holiday Predictions. And as everyone gets rolling in, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen for our first slide. And would love to know your business and what you're selling this holiday season that has you so curious to join our webinar today. Feel free to throw that in chat for us. And we've got our awesome speakers here today. Greg from ShipStation, Amanda from Stacker, and Andy from Tenuity. So we've got some really awesome brains and conversation that we're going to get going. And we'll wait for some more people to join in still. Okay, let me share this. I wish I was selling something. If I was selling, it would be like dog toys, anything dog related, dog beds. I always laugh if you guys have seen Modern Family when Jay starts selling the dog beds. It's just like a pineapple It's just random shapes, but it's like a great business and he makes a lot of money from it. So he's my inspo. Okay.
Oh, someone in the Q&A said it looks like the chat is disabled for them.
Oh, no. Okay, let me get into chat here. Speakers, are you able to message to everyone here?
No, just hosts and panelists.
Oh man, thanks for letting me know, guys. For now, let's throw it into the QA. Any comments you have? And then let me see if I can get this going early on. So sorry about that. Okay. All right. How does chat look for everyone now? Yeah. Yay. Perfect. Thank you so much for the check there. Chat's up. Awesome. Chat away, please. Now I will get my share screen. Hello, hello. If you missed it, we'd love to know what you're selling this season. What is your top priority for the season? We'll take that into consideration as we're going through all of our awesome data points to give some really great insight today. Luxury fragrances. Oh, I love that. I saw a few questions in our RSVP for luxury fragrances. Vegan, cruelty-free hair, body care products. I love that, hitting all of that. That's great. I think, yeah, these are different verticals and definitely could be the same type of shopper segment. And it's all about how you're really presenting yourself out there as a brand, right? I love that.
I was gonna say, drop some links because I'm in a consumer mindset these days. I've been spending way too much time online.
Yes, drop the links here. Like backpacking gear. Oh, I love that. That's like on everyone's radar that I talk to, backpacking. Men's grooming, that's great. Skincare. Price conscious consumer. Yes.
Nice.
Love it. Love it.
Very cool. Am I the only one who can't believe we're talking about holidays because it's already halfway through August? This year is just
I'm like, I
blown.
knew it would come, and I'm just like, it's here. It's happening.
Yeah.
We're thinking about it. I should start thinking about it.
It always comes up so fast. I'm already trying to stockpile and find deals and
Yeah.
discover new brands and
Yeah.
try to get new things for the holidays. I usually get the same thing over and over. So I'm in the market. So yes, throw those links in the chat and
I love that.
looking them up afterwards.
I'm curious from our speakers, have any of you created your own like wish list and already shared that with your family, or do you tend to do that?
My son has on Amazon. He's 6.
That's a classic.
Yeah, I don't have any personal wishes just yet, but I'm sure they'll come once I start seeing all the ads pouring.
Right? Like
I
they
tend to,
love that.
yeah, I tend to just like bookmark things all year that I then rediscover in like November. I'm like, oh yeah, I did really like that. Now's the time.
Yeah, now's the time to initiate research and get I'm the worst. I like text myself links. I put things in my notes. I Slack myself on my personal Slack. So they're everywhere. So I don't know which step I need to go with, like for what I wanted. Okay. Cool. Can everyone see the first slide here, reading between the data? Are we good? Yeah. Okay. Cool. We're about 5 minutes in, so we'll get started with everyone that we've got here today. We're going to hear from our awesome panelists as far as the stats that we're presenting. And once we get into stats, we're taking it to the rest of the panel to see where they fall in terms of their point of view and their recommendations here. I would love to start with some intros here. Andy, if you can kick us off from Tenuity.
Yeah, of course. Hi, everyone. Andy Taylor, VP of Research here at Synuity, where we manage more than $3 billion in annual media under management across most major platforms, including Google, Meta, Amazon, all of that good stuff. In my role in the research department, I'm charged with keeping tabs on how that spend is shifting over time and how our advertisers are, finding performance at any given time, and then also heading up some proprietary survey-based studies that we also release regularly. So excited to be here.
I love that. The research guy. Yes. Amanda, can we get a little intro from you?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Amanda. I'm head of marketing at a company called Stacker. We are essentially a newswire and a newsroom. So for the last several years, we've been creating newsworthy stories and syndicating them out to about 3,000 publishers across the country. It's a very unique earned syndication model. So we have to create things that people want to pick up, which is always a challenge, right? And I'm going to be sharing with y'all some of the trends that we've seen around the holiday season and what kind of content can get some traction.
I love that. That's like a top question. Like, how can we drive traffic to site? And content is the biggest thing that can connect to your brand. I'm excited to hear from you. And Greg, can you wrap us up over here?
Yeah, sure. Greg Oneman, with ShipStation, I head our strategic partnerships. ShipStation is a web-based software platform designed to help businesses with their shipping and fulfillment needs. We serve as like a central hub for all of your selling channels, where we kind of extract all of those orders into one place and help you fulfill those orders as optimized as possible.
I love that. The most important part, once they've actually given us some money and we want to make sure we're meeting their expectations. Excited to hear from you. And I will also be sharing from the Justuno perspective some data points on original research we had going into the holiday season and relating that to the on-site experience and really wherever else our speakers are speaking on too, relating it to those topics. So we're going to go ahead and get started with Amanda giving us some stat call outs and then throwing it to the panel. Let you take it away, Amanda.
All right. Yeah, so I alluded to the fact that we are a newswire, and one of the really cool things I get to see is every story that we send out to these 3,000 publishers, what stories are being republished the most. And I've worked in content and PR for like a decade now, and I've never had access to this type of data, so I'm geeking the hell out over it all the time. And so I wanted to share with you some of what I have learned. So some quick notes first before I share with you some of our top performing stories from last year. The first is that the reason why we're talking about holidays now is because, as you know, there's a lot of prep work that goes into that. And any sort of content effort or awareness building also needs to start in advance. In fact, we have asked our publishing partners that we work directly with when they want to start getting pitched content, and they said 1 to 2 months in advance of whatever holiday or event it relates to. So that means that the content needs to be done by the time that you're pitching it, right? So a friendly reminder to start thinking about these things ASAP. And then also, when you're in this world of like creating share-worthy, newsworthy content, what we have found, maybe unsurprisingly, but that has done really well in conjunction with holidays, is tying it into either travel, food, or entertainment. And Steph, if you're cool with me sharing my screen really quick, I will show everybody. It says the participants are disabled from screen sharing. I'll show everybody. I literally went through all of the stories that we had run from September of last year through, I think, January 2nd. And every story that did at least 250 pickups, meaning 250 different publications decided to republish these stories. So here is that breakdown. I know somebody in the chat just asked about it. You can subscribe to our newsletter called Newsworthy that talks about this stuff on a monthly basis. We also have a report called What Publishers Want on the Stacker Studio site if you want to check that out. But this is specifically around holidays. So I highlighted a few that I wanted to call out really quickly. These are all data-based. So one of the things that we found is that publishers, and really anybody, there's not a ton of trust right now, right? So if you can base things on more objective sources of truth, like data or experts in the field, rather than just what like you as the person writing this blog post or the person putting this report together think. It is a great way to get additional traction and to build trust in your brand as well. So these are some examples of the types of stories that have used data. An example story, best Thanksgiving movies of all time. You could be opinionated about this, right? We could all probably put our list together, but this uses actual rating sites compilation of scores in order to create this ranked list. So it's an example of being a little more objective rather than subjective. That tends to do better over a large audience. But yeah, you'll see travel shows up here a ton. Our best performing stories are always about travel. And if we think about why, it's because it's so relatable, right? Like, how is what you're selling tying into the things that people deal with on a day-to-day basis? Is it their travel plans? Is it their finances? The way that they want to feel about themselves? You know, we saw a lot of like kind of personal care and beauty content or people mentioning those types of companies. So we're thinking about not just like what you're selling. What we do is we think more top level about your category and your industry and like, how does that relate to people's day to day? That would be the question I would tell everybody to prompt themselves with when trying to come up with content in preparation for the holiday season. Because these are stories that we've created just, you know, in the Stacker newsroom, but we also partner with brands in all different segments, e-commerce, B2B, everything. And what we typically do is we say, all right, here's your general topic, here's your industry area. Now let's apply that to other newsworthy topics that are doing really well. So something to think about for the holiday season. You know, you don't have to stick to very specifically what you do. I encourage you to zoom out a little bit, think about your overall category and how can you contribute something interesting and newsworthy to that space. I know that was a lot that I just threw out there. And if anybody has questions about like specific industries or anything, please let me know. But I'm also always happy to send over specific examples if people are curious.
That's great stuff. I feel like I would be so curious to have just like a little starter pack guide on developing that right kind of content. You went to a couple places, I'll pull up my notes here, for content and just making it really kind of high level. So you mentioned like travel, and there's so many products and industries that can fall under travel. So I think that's really important. Like, we don't have to being niche is really great. But when it comes to like this huge holiday where everyone is shopping, I can see how that high level type of content really helps. I also went into thinking about shipping content and kind of, Greg, like where you fall into that in creating really good messages relating to shipping changes or, yeah, just anything really that should be top of mind.
Yeah, absolutely. So the thing that kind of comes to mind with that is just the importance of communication. With everything that Amanda had touched on, it's you know, I'm reminded of the saying that, you know, facts tell and stories sell, and the story is so crucial and it gets people to your site, but then the communication doesn't end there. And after that customer has, you know, clicked submit order on your website, the communication continues, and those stories continue, and injecting that, I guess, into that post-purchase experience in the form of updates. You know, it doesn't always have to be about tracking, but there are, you know, other elements and touch points where you can, you know, tell another story or feature another product or something that, you know, maybe was in your cart that you abandoned, and how that can tie back into what your core message is as a brand. The communication aspect of the entire thing is crucial, for sure.
I love that. And I like how you mentioned it can be outside of just that tracking message, which I know we've kind of like up to this point, we've tried to really hit on that tracking situation, and that's another touch point for you as a merchant to communicate with a visitor or a new customer. And I guess I would love to throw it to you, Andy, and what you think about this high level type of content and where that would fit into other parts of your omni-channel experience or your marketing strategy.
Certainly. I mean, I think, you know, the points that Amanda brought up are really great in terms of just keeping it high level and making sure you're casting a wide net. A lot of those topics that she hit on were kind of, timeless in a sense where, people are always thinking about how to entertain themselves during the holidays or travel or all that good stuff. So you're going to be casting a pretty wide net in terms of like pulling in those viewers. But then I think the key from there is to then, to Greg's point, really try to further facilitate that conversation in a more detailed way, take them down a path that you want them to go down, and ultimately turn them into loyal customers over time. And so I think getting that right can be different for different brands, and certainly depending on your product category and who the your buyers are. But just making sure you're effectively using things like any first party data you get out of any of these users who might be tapping into this types of content, or retargeting them, or finding ways to reach out to them and give them again more refined messaging over time, since you are using that wider net to kind of pull them in from the go.
Great point. Yeah, I think that would, like, if I see that type of content, I'm probably, as a marketer, wanting to greet that person to further funnel them into the rest of their purchase journey. That's awesome. Amanda, do you have any comments on our takes on your stats?
No, I love it. I mean, like, this is definitely the top of the funnel first step, right? We're talking about building awareness and authority for your brand, so that later what Andy and Gregory and Steph are going to talk about become a little bit easier. These people are at least in your atmosphere, right? They've heard about you, they've seen your great content, and now, like they're talking about, it's time to keep that communication up. It's time to move them through the funnel and get them to convert and deliver on your promises. So I think this is the great first step, the thing to start thinking about right now to get more of those people in your sphere.
Yes. I've been thinking about your content and your position on it, and it just feels like an open love letter to like anyone that wants to shop with us. Like, this is what we got. This is where we sit. This is what we're doing. Thank you so much for sharing that, Amanda. We're going to hop into the Justuno stats now and then take it to the panel. I'm going to do a quick check here in chat. And QA. Okay, cool. We're doing great. Awesome. So from the Justuno perspective, we are all about the on-site experience and just the different parts of the funnel where visitors may fall into, and those unique shopper segments that you're trying to target once they're on the website, which that can be anyone coming from a Google ad to just a post that you had on your Instagram page. And these stats are covering recent events and changing consumer behavior. So we had our original data on different demographics as well as shopping behaviors leading into the holiday season. The first one I'll call out is 4.58% said ratings was most important while shopping, but reportedly 95% of consumers read ratings and reviews before making an online purchase. So that stood out to me because it didn't quite sync up with how it wasn't as important, but it is definitely a step that is taken. I think, to me, that kind of is telling about the consumer and the shopper. They're just maybe so used to seeing reviews. They're so used to having access to that. They don't realize how effective it is in getting them to make that purchase, but they are reading it. They acknowledge that it's available to them. The next stat I have here is 25.48% said that they get their gift ideas from recipient request. This takes me into a lot of different places as far as the persona type or the shopper segment that you have on your website, and really where we want to be directing them to have a really quality experience and get you a quality conversion, which means not returning. It's just the right fit. It's exactly what they thought it would be, or meets or exceeds their expectations. So I'll get into recipient requests here in a second. And my third stat here is that many shoppers, particularly Gen X and boomers, plan to begin holiday shopping before November. That can encompass a lot, and it can include these other channels like social commerce or just your general omni-channel experience to be like boosted however you want to boost it. I'll pop it back to the recipient request because that kind of made me think back to Amanda and that content situation with people visiting, a good quarter visiting for someone else. They are kind of going to be someone that goes down a different research path. They probably don't really know the brand. They're just taking what's been given to them from secondhand, and they're trying to figure it out. So if they can already feel like they're acknowledged as being the gifter, or if it is for themselves, then you know whether you're more in that education phase of giving them content, giving them that trust and feeling like you have authority in that space, and just getting them to convert and giving them cross-sell or upsell options. I would love to take it to you, Amanda, to see what your thoughts are on the ratings and maybe just including that in content or how you see it used. Oh, I got you muted.
Of course, I always have to do that once a call. I find that fascinating and not wholly surprising, because I don't know if anybody on this call has run surveys before, like in comparing this exact thing, what people say and what they actually do or want do not always correspond. And I think this is a really classic example of that. Like you said, I think you made a great point that it's kind of just like integrated into our behavior at this point to look at reviews. I certainly know that I'm looking at ratings and reviews before I buy things. I might be an anomaly here, but I think that it's more important than this 4.58% tends to say. I think even if people are saying that it doesn't matter as much to them, we're talking about fundamentally authority. And that's the same thing I was talking about with content. And I like to think about it holistically. And I think it's going to come up a lot on this call organically, which is that if people trust your brand and they trust your products, this is one of the ways of building that trust, is by saying, like, here are previous consumers who have said that you delivered what you said you were going to deliver, and they're really pleased with the transaction. That's just a micro way of building trust in your brand overall, right? Like every single one of those touch points, all the way from hearing about your brand to like the shipping process, is going to be communicating whether your brand is authoritative. I think this is an important piece of that, to the point where it's like subliminal.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear you say that. It's funny. I think most of our, like, whenever I'm working with a merchant, it's also really important for us to educate on how to use the reviews. Like, depending on who you're using for your reviews platform, it may have different features where you can filter to exactly the size that you want to see, or maybe it is all about like just hearing how someone else can speak about your product. Maybe that's what's doing it. So yeah, lots of ways to present those reviews. Greg, I'd love your thoughts on just the gifting process and how that falls into ShipStation, because we see a lot of people are just in that mindset at this time.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're shopping on Amazon and you're buying a gift, it's really easy to, leave a gift message right there within the order. Being able to do that within your shipping and fulfillment platform, it's regardless of who you use, it's most likely an option in there. So, being able to create customized messaging, even if it's, done very simply, will go a long way, again, with the communication of that. And it doesn't always have to be the gifter that's writing the message. It could be something that, the shipper can include or inject. It could be something that's, automated if it's a gift. So there's a lot of things that you could do there to optimize that entire workflow, but the, gifts are a big part of, the things that we ship during the holiday season, and being able to say thank you, or, I hope you enjoy something, or happy birthday, does go a long way. And if it's a product that's coming directly from your site and not, another marketplace, it still goes a long way in reinforcing that brand and who you are within the space.
Yeah, great points on gifting. I like how you said it doesn't have to be, I'm not sure how you worded it. It doesn't have to be like crazy. It can be something very simple, which I think Amazon's a perfect example of that. It is so simple. The little note they send is so simple. It looks like just a little receipt paper, but it's just that thought that goes with it, like what you offer with that kind of message. And I think that's a great point, in that it could also come from like the shipper perspective, and just it being like a really solid shipping delivery experience. Is that kind of what you meant there?
Yes.
Okay, cool. And I think one of the questions we get a lot here at Justuno when it relates to gifting is like how to know if someone is a gifter, or how to know like maybe what products are going to be high in those gifters, in those, yeah, in that gifter segment. I know we had a question about luxury, was it luxury perfumes? Just trying to double check. Or different fashion apparel. So things that maybe are going to be that higher price tag, and how you present them with these different gifting options can be that final touch. So as a merchant, that's really what can make you stand out in the holiday, is how you're presenting the gifting options for someone and how you're educating someone to get through if they are a gifter. Andy, are there any stats here that really stand out to you that you feel like you kind of relate to on the Tenuity side?
I like all of them. I'm probably gonna riff on a little bit of each of these actually. Yeah, on the first one, I love that you called that out. You know, we do some studies as well around, you know, how much folks see value in things like written reviews or other product detail page elements. You know, certainly, you know, ratings are key. I think what stuck out in some of our studies as well is just how important other elements like photos or videos are to especially younger cohorts. They tend to, you know, really outpace older generations in terms of how valuable folks find them in terms of deciding whether or not to purchase a product once they've hit a product detail page. So especially if you're marketing to, you know, Gen Z or younger folks, definitely make sure you're taking advantage of those like kind of multimedia aspects of product detail pages, because they are really like asking for that kind of stuff. On the second point, I think this kind of speaks to how important it is to value that top of funnel effort that we were talking about in that first slide with Amanda. Obviously, you know, you're trying to build demand with someone who's ultimately going to pass that demand off to someone else who's going to be buying it. And so obviously, you know, there might not be quite the, you know, click to purchase attribution there that would exist if someone was just buying that product for themselves, or if they had discovered that product independently of the other individual. So, you know, some of that demand building is not necessarily going to track on the same device and have the same person purchasing it overall. So make sure you are valuing those top of funnel efforts. And then on the last point, this has certainly been kind of a steady trend over the last few years with folks just moving holiday shopping earlier and earlier. And, you know, a lot of that does have to do with how retailers and big e-commerce players are, you know, pushing folks to make those purchases earlier. You know, I'd say a real turning point was, you know, back in 2020 when, you know, everyone was, you know, really terrified of shipping cutoffs, and, you know, it was a lot of congestion, a lot of fear. And so everyone really pulled all of their sales to much earlier in Q4, you know, kicking off in October timeline. And basically ever since then, you know, a lot of these players have kind of kept with that much earlier timeline of kicking off a lot of their sales. You know, Amazon's obviously going to have a major Prime event in mid-October again. And so, you know, I'd say the takeaway there is to make sure you are taking advantage of the fact that you know, many consumers do know that some of these deals will be in play early on, and just make sure you know, you're effectively messaging folks when you do have good offers earlier in Q4.
That's a great, yeah, I loved your little riff on all of those. It keeps taking us back to Amanda's content and just how effective that is. So I'm really happy that we got to start with that. I think I guess I'll give this insight. When we're working with merchants at this point, it's August. We're really trying to map out the on-site strategy. And as we're doing that, we're thinking about the shipping. We're thinking about what content you've been driving to the site so far, and just how messaging needs to shift a little bit, or just how our data capture strategy needs to shift. So right now, lead capture, which is email or SMS, those are really big. Growing those channels is really ideal. So we're kind of hitting the ground running right now with that being the focus. But as we get into October, we're definitely shifting to that conversion first mindset and making sure every part of the funnel is addressed. And I'll just take it back to my first stat that people are saying and doing crazy things, but they are definitely trying to find something that relates to them. So I'll leave my slide there. I'm going to pass it over to Tenuity for Andy to give us some stats.
Thanks, Steph. Yeah, so I figured it might be helpful to talk through, the most recent sales holiday that we've really all been through, which is Prime Day. And obviously not everyone sells on Amazon, but I do think the performance during the most recent Prime Day event is a good bellwether for how things might play out over the coming holiday shopping season. And top level, Amazon reported its biggest sales day ever with the first day of Prime Day. They also reported its biggest Prime Day event ever. So really, strong indications that, particularly on these big sales days, consumers are, ready to spend and ready to buy. And I think, that tracks with some other indicators that we really saw come out over the last few weeks. Consumer confidence hit a 2-year high in July, as perceptions about both current economic state and, future expectations both rose. So folks are feeling pretty optimistic currently about how things might be looking in Q4. And I think a little bit of that has to do with the fears of inflation are starting to wane a bit. Not that folks are completely ignoring the fact that things are still more expensive than they used to be, but when we surveyed folks before Prime Day, we found that 54% of folks said that their purchases during Prime Day would be impacted by product price inflation, which is down from 63% last year. So that is starting to come down. And so all in all, just like a really good indicator that things are moving forward. And so that's kind of the high level. And so I wanted to zoom in on 2 stats that were related to kind of our advertiser data during the event. And number one was that if you look at new-to-brand customer share attributed to the Amazon demand side platform, it went up from 47% before the event to 58% during Prime Day. And I think a good reason to call this out, especially since someone in the chat mentioned that they were particularly interested in acquiring new customers, is that even looking at outside of Amazon, like even through Google search ads or Meta or what have you, we do find that those new to brand customer shares really do jump during those key sales days, particularly Black Friday and Cyber Monday. So a great opportunity to get in front of new to brand customers at that stage. And then also another trend related to that is that we also see that new to brand customer share kind of tick up throughout the holiday. It kind of drops back right after Cyber Monday, and then it ticks back up throughout the rest of the holiday shopping season up until shipping cutoffs, as folks slowly and steadily buy more and more of the gifts that they might just need to kind of last minute pull the trigger on, and maybe it's less of a consideration, less of a brand they might have close ties to, and more opportunity to get in there and get access to a new customer. So just something to keep in mind is that we do tend to see those 2 trends play out if you're looking for higher new to brand share. And then another trend that really stuck out from our advertising data was that 61% of sales attributed to Amazon sponsored products occurred in the first 24 hours, which it was up from 54% last year. And it was also 54% the year prior. So the first day of Prime Day has kind of always been a big deal for vendors and sellers. It's always accounted for a majority of the sales, but we saw that jump to kind of new heights this year. And so I think just thinking about how that might play out in the holiday shopping season, obviously Steph mentioned earlier how, a lot of folks are planning on shopping, earlier in general, to make sure that they can, get the products they want and get them in time. I think, if Prime Day is a bellwether for how we might see core stretches play out, it might be the case that we also see a stronger Thanksgiving Black Friday period here in the Cyber 5, if folks are really going to try to pull those purchases to the early parts of big sales events. Last year, we did see Cyber Monday actually grow the fastest of any day when it came to Google and Amazon for our advertisers, but I'm curious if we'll see that kind of switch up this year, and maybe we'll see Thanksgiving and Black Friday see more of a boost there.
Sorry, Andy, I was like lost in everything you were saying. Like, that is such great insight. It's the most immediate holiday, right? That we just had as far as Prime Day. The one thing that stood out to me compared to some Justuno research is, at least with Amazon, advertisers saw new to brand customer share jump. And then when it came to our survey, shoppers are more likely to shop with somebody they know. So to me, I guess that's just to say, like, how they get to know you is at different touch points in your omni channel. So maybe they got to know you in a couple social posts, that maybe they're just in your SMS or they're just in your email. So I think that get to know versus new to the brand can kind of be a gray line, because there are so many ways that you can just feel like you know a brand now. And like the easiest probably being like TikTok, like that's the way you're going to sell something like the fastest. Greg, I'd love to get your thoughts on what Tenuity presented from Prime Day and like maybe where you saw that in terms of shipping from your side.
Absolutely. So, and this is even going back to the last point on your slide, as we're coming into the holiday season and we're expecting this huge jump in order volume across the board. I'd say that a lot of the statistics that Andy had presented, I don't have the hard numbers, but I'm sure that trend would, extend to Shopify sellers, BigCommerce, and folks on other marketplaces. I think that one of the huge stats that is often overlooked when, thinking about how folks are going to begin, ordering these holiday products earlier, is the rate of return, and how that also is going to take a huge spike. And a statistic that I'll just touch on quickly is, I think 54% of returns happen between December 1st and December 24th. So as you're seeing this huge uptick in outbound orders, it's crucial that you also anticipate the orders that are going to be coming back during that same period. And if you don't, it could completely derail, your fulfillment process. And there's some tips and tricks that, I'll share in my spiel about, how to mitigate that a little bit. But returns also take a huge uptick along with sales during the holiday period.
You're so right. Yeah, I do not want to overlook that at all. Returns it's something that's going to happen. It's also something that you could use to your advantage, and maybe like all of December, free returns, or we'll hop on a call with you. However it is that you're selling your service or your product. I think that's one where, we always touch on what returns mean, like what the policies are. And it's something that all shoppers are really looking for. Amanda, do you have any comments on what Tenuity shared here today for Prime Day and like how that syncs up with content?
I find the first stat super interesting, and it goes back to kind of like, I see Amazon Prime Day as a discovery day for me, like of tapping into brands that I am not aware of. And so this stat was really kind of fascinating for me as a consumer, but it makes a lot of sense, right? Like, you're not necessarily going to Amazon hunting down the things that you might look at the things in your cart that you already buy consistently, but you're also looking for the deals for new products and brands that you haven't been aware of. So I feel like from a content perspective, what this got me thinking of is, where can you either earn media or pay for advertising on these other sites where people are trying in that discovery phase? Like, there's lists already out there, right, about like, oh, here's like 10 new retailers to shop for your different people. Like, you can start there. But I mentioned in the Q&A one of the tools called SparkToro that allows you to see where your audience is consuming information online. So just making sure that you're present in those places where your audience already is just a good thing to remember. And this is a great reminder of that.
I love that connection. Yeah. This that first stat also made me think that, or no, I think it was the second one. Yeah, the sponsored products stat. It makes me realize that like I really trust the Amazon sponsored product area, like what they're telling me. And like I trust that it's either a deal or I'm going to get some info. Of course, you have the hit or misses, but I just tend to trust it. And that's the kind of trust that you can translate onto your website, and not necessarily a sponsored carousel of products, but recommending products based off of influencers that you're kind of like Amanda was speaking to. Your audience is connected to that voice, or just different kinds of areas or different groups that your visitors are in. That's kind of how you can connect the two. I love this, Tenuity. Thank you so much for those stats. We're going to throw it over to Greg now to give us some ShipStation stats. Take it away.
All right. So, everything leading up to this, regarding Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and Prime Day, is it's all about getting potential new customers through the door and then converting them into actual customers. And that's such a crucial element of the e-commerce process. I always refer to it as the inspiration to order process. And it's basically the steps that lead up to a customer clicking submit order. But after that comes the pick, pack, and ship process. In reality, it's much more than that. And it is your opportunity to, wow that net new customer, and then gain or build a long-term relationship. So every year we put together our basically like a state of the industry kind of report. We call it our benchmark report. And this year we highlighted three stats around what to expect during the holiday season. And the first stat is that nearly 64% of online shoppers expect 2 to 4 day shipping. And then the second is 61% of shoppers said high shipping costs are the largest deterrent to them making a purchasing decision. So right off the bat, this is clearly the leading cause of cart abandonment. And there really is no bigger turnoff. And Amazon has kind of set that precedent and even pushed the envelope a little bit with, offering free same day shipping or free next day shipping. I don't want to say unfortunately, but customers have come to kind of expect the same when shopping on your storefront. It's not realistic, in my opinion, and I don't recommend that you try to replicate that, at least to that extent. Although I'd say that the 2 to 4 day shipping is reasonable with all things considered, and it's also totally doable. It's an opportunity to delight your customer, and I'll say that quick and dirty does not always mean better, unless it's at 2 a.m. and the golden arches are looking pretty tantalizing. But you can really stand out with your packaging and your communication or your tracking and returns portal. And there's tons of opportunity there to, establish your brand and gain a loyal customer. And the last stat that I've got here is around communication. And I think that, if we were to sum up this entire webinar, a lot of it, would revolve around how important communication is and how big of a difference it makes. And when it comes to the, post-purchase experience, 80% of consumers did say that they want either daily communications or, communication around major status changes regarding their order. So that'd be things like, it's left the facility, it's en route, it's out for delivery, but then other things as, like it's been delayed in transit or, any other hiccups that could come up. But if you take a step back before that purchasing decision has been made, the communication begins as soon as they come to your site. And that'll be things around, free shipping on order thresholds. You want to make that known to your customer as soon as they come to your site. Could be free returns. It could be promos that you're offering. Communicating your returns policy is going to be super important, especially during the holiday season. And making sure that you're communicating other shipping options if you have any options available to them, like different carriers and different shipping timelines and whatnot. And then also inventory. So, if something's on back order or if it's out of stock, communicate that. Because if you don't and someone order something and then they're disappointed before, they can even check out, really. That is, I guess, my message today. And there's ways that, you can get close to an Amazon type experience. while reinforcing your brand along the way. So number one, I'd say would be reducing your shipping costs for your brand, and not only that, but for your customer. And you can do that pretty easily by using a shipping and fulfillment platforms, negotiated rates, and shipping that way. It's really difficult for a brand that, let's say, is doesn't have very high volume to negotiate with the carriers themselves to get those negotiated rates, and that kind of leaves you high and dry unless you do have a solution in place that does offer negotiated rates. Another thing that you could do is pass those savings on to customers. So with those savings, you could offer free shipping, again, over like a $150 threshold. You can give your customers the power to choose through in-cart, rate displays. So if they did want it in 2 days, you've communicated to them that, hey, that's going to be, $20 on top of, your purchase for shipping. And then develop and communicate a hassle-free returns policy. Free returns is the best. I would say that it is more important than free shipping. And kind of going back to the stat I had mentioned earlier, that 54% of these returns happen before Christmas, right? Between December 1st and the 24th. So making that hassle-free in ways like pre-printing a returns label and putting it in the box goes a long way. So if someone was dissatisfied for whatever reason with the product, they don't have to come through your support line and then back up that your team there, and it derails the outbound shipping experience. And then instead of offering refunds, I think another thing you could do is offering store credit in its place. So this will help you keep some of those customers and not shoveling back all the money that they had spent on your product.
I love all those points, Greg. You made me think a lot about I feel like you had a hot take. Well, hot take for me, that free returns are more important than free shipping. And I think that totally is in line with just the mindset that needs to translate into like holiday time. This is just like a different time for shopping and different competitiveness that's happening in the world right now. I also would love to get your thoughts on the easiest or best way to digest shipping policies, or just shipping info, whether that be through video, if you've seen it, or just the URL on the website.
That, I think one of the most efficient ways to communicate it is right on the website. I haven't seen it too much with video, but the shipping updates part of it, after they've submitted their order, you can begin kind of hinting at that, or you can embed your returns policy into those communications. So that's something they could easily refer back to, and it's something that it eases their mind, especially if you're a D2C brand that's online only and it's a net new customer. They don't necessarily know exactly what they're getting. You can read as many reviews as you want, and it gives a consumer like me a lot of peace of mind knowing that, hey, if this doesn't work out for whatever reason, they've got a really hassle-free returns policy, and this package has arrived. There's a return label in it already, so it's easy to just slap it on, take it to UPS, and ship it back, and creating that sense of comfort and kind of alleviating that stress that comes along with, if I don't like it, I'm stuck with it. It goes a long way in creating that loyalty. And then, because your product is amazing, because that they're going to love it, it just reinforces your brand in their mind, and it increases retention, tenfold, in all honesty. So yeah, it's big.
That's huge. Yeah, I think shipping, I've seen those like behind the scenes shipping videos like on TikTok where they're showing how packaging it, or maybe like a founder made video going through the return policy. Those are some things I've seen being adopted. Definitely a great time to test that kind of messaging on your website with your return policy or anything that you're trying to communicate with a little bit more details right now. Andy, I'd love to know what you think about shipping and this area of communicating around shipping from the Tenuity side.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, a lot of what Tenuity handles is, a lot of advertising in particular. And, certainly once you're paying for those customer interactions, like it becomes even more important to make sure you're setting the right expectations. I mean, just looking at that first stat with the 2 to 4 day shipping and how that plays out, particularly at the end of the holiday shopping season. I mean, once you've gotten to that point where folks really can't expect to get things in time for big dates, then you really do need to, update your strategy on the advertising side of things and make sure that you're spending appropriately, and in those cases where you are still being aggressive, making sure you're also aggressively messaging that like this will probably not get there before Christmas. And then kind of to Greg's point on trying to come up with a good shipping deal for customers. Certainly when it comes to creating high performing ads, just being able to offer free shipping is one of the biggest things you can put in advertising copy to attract people to your site and to ultimately convert them. And even if that's free shipping with a minimum order or whatever you have to do to get there, it goes a long way to making your marketing efforts work a lot more effectively. So definitely would second and third everything that Greg said.
I love that. Yeah, everything Greg said, yes. One thing that, Greg, you were talking about how, like, if there's delayed shipments, if that's happening, how you would just want to make sure you're communicating that. And it kind of got me thinking that, like, maybe you could gamify that shipping scenario where it's like, okay, we've been delayed, but, visit this page for an Easter egg for like 100 points on our website. Is that something that you think kind of fits in there, or is it we want to stick to that just straight messaging?
I think there's absolutely a place for gamification around, those types of unexpected and, negative, updates. And if you could gamify it and, and I've seen it done, I guess in certain cases where, for instance, this is kind of off topic, but like Uber Eats or something like that, if I order something and it doesn't get here when they say it's going to be here, they'll credit me the $5 in cash or something like that. I think there's absolutely a place for that. I haven't seen it done in the way that you're explaining, but I can absolutely imagine it being done that way. And it's always a bummer when you get those messages. And, from personal experience, last holiday season, I ordered a new couch from a brand that's online only. And they communicated that shipping could take up to 4 weeks, I think it was. And I was totally fine with that. It's furniture, it's huge, it's freight. But it ended up taking like 3 months in order to arrive, and I didn't receive one communication after that. There was no like it's been processed or it's awaiting fulfillment or anything like that. And I was checking in daily to do that, and it was really frustrating because I had to go to the site and check on it myself, and it's annoying because what the brand should be doing is communicating that with me proactively. And it wasn't communicated at all. So, I mean, even with the gamification in place, I think that just kind of takes it to a next level of saying, no big deal, it's delayed, but you have to have some sort of communication and be proactive about that communication. Or else, you get a customer like me who, I do have the couch now and I love it. I probably, when I'm shopping for a couch again, I wouldn't go there.
Totally. And I think that's such a good call out that your experience with that site now affects your experience of the industry, of that vertical of like just home stuff maybe. And that's why for the competitors in that space, it's really easy for you to delight and to surprise your visitor with just a streamlined process, easy peasy, no friction. They get the basic updates. Like you're already beating someone that they had a terrible experience with and increasing the likelihood of that conversion and the value that you'll have with that visitor.
Right.
I love that. Amanda, I'd love to know if you have any comments on this shipping side, which is like way past your side, but can still tie in because we can bring in that relevant content perhaps. I'd love your thoughts there.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. I am not a shipping expert. However, I do love the communication aspect of it, right? People will, this applies to content, brand, anything. If there is a gap, people will assume the worst. If you don't communicate, if you're not telling people something, and just like Gregory was saying, like it's annoying to have to seek that out if you're not providing it to people. So that applies to shipping. It applies to really any part of the customer experience with the brand if you're not giving them that information up front. And I think that I'm always very impressed with brands that go out of their way to almost over communicate things. Like, this is why shipping costs this much, or this is why it takes this long. Like, even if it's a little blurb, I'm like, that's fascinating. And you kind of empathize a little. You just get it a little bit more rather than just having this data just like slapped at you, you know, like, here we go. It'll come in 5 weeks, deal with it. It's more of, oh, there's like actually a reason for this. You're reminded that people work at this company. Any sort of communicating and transparency at any part of the process, I think, can go a long way in building like the affinity and trust that we've been talking about.
Yeah, great point. I think you just naturally leaned into Justuno in there as far as like just being able to place these little messages on the website that maybe they're not there right now because we're in that summer mode, but come October, just lean into that over communication and you'll get the feedback based on the engagement you see on these messages. Within the platforms like Justuno, Tenuity, wherever it is that you're measuring, like you'll see that engagement data and the impression information for like who it's all showing to help you realize like, okay, yeah, that is kind of overkill. Don't really need to tell them all that versus like, okay, I need this type of banner on this page for my New Yorkers and my people in California. Like that could be 2 different messages there. So really, I guess we want to hone in on just like being really specific. I love that. Cool. I know we got about 1 minute left. We got into some really great feedback between us all. I love that. I'll get into just the QA that I saw Amanda answer, and then we'll wrap it up today. Perfect. So what are the tools and methodologies to better understand what type of outside content we could relate to our market and communication? Amanda, I guess I would love to know, is your response more general or is it a little more specific?
I guess it's more general. A lot of it has to do with marketing departments are usually very attuned to your product, right? And your audience. So to back out of that is a tough exercise. To back out of like, okay, we're really adept at knowing exactly what the challenge that we meet is, but what else is going on in the world of our consumer? What else is challenging them? What else do they care about? How can we play in those spaces instead? So the tips in there are more about like that sort of an exploration and ideation outside of what might typically be in your process. So I mentioned SparkToro earlier. That's a cool tool that like, say, you can put your own website in there and be like, where do people who land on my site also, what podcasts do they listen to? What publications do they read? Let's make sure we're advertising there. Getting a sense of search and how people are what are they asking on in Google and how can we answer those questions? So basically it's a bunch of examples of how you can do that type of more top of the funnel brainstorming.
I love that. Thank you for elaborating there. I will say I just threw in a couple links to some articles on the original research that Justuno presented today. So feel free to grab those in the chat and feel free to reach out to any of our speakers today if you have any questions. I know, Greg, you have an offer for the audience. If you'd like to vocalize that, you can go ahead.
Sure, absolutely. And I think we're going to put that promo code in the chat. But for anyone interested in trying out ShipStation. We're offering 2 free months on the platform. It's 2 free months that you could streamline your holiday shipments. And if you love it after that, please stay with us.
I love that. Yes. And tie that in with a Justuno free trial. You're going to get so much data right now that can really help you map out the rest for the holiday season. But I will let everyone go today. Thank you so much for joining, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. Thank you, guys. Talk to you later.
Thanks, everyone.